You are unique in all the world. There is truly no one like you. No one looks quite like you, and certainly no one thinks or processes like you do. Your history, your struggles, and your joys are unrepeatable. No one is wounded quite like you, gifted quite like you, or laughs quite like you do. You are unique in all the world. So you could perhaps understand the prayer of the Pharisee in tonight's gospel when he says, "Oh God, I thank you that I am not like the rest of humanity." Well, if I heard you pray those words, "I thank you, I'm not like the rest of humanity," I would likely respond, "Oh, but you are." Wait, you might say, I thought you just said I was unique. I did. You are unique. I am too. But on the most foundational levels, you and I and all of God's people are much more alike than different. On those things that truly matter, the core of who we are much more alike than we are different. We each get lonely and frightened. We each have hopes and dreams. We each love and we search for meaning. We laugh and we cry. And importantly for tonight's scripture, unlike the way the Pharisee saw it, we are each sinful. We fall, each of us, far from the mark. Notice that when the Pharisee prays, "I thank you that I am not like the rest of humanity," he is drawing his sense of himself, his self-image, from comparison. "I thank you that I'm not like him," he says. But that's such a slippery slope. That's such a dangerous process. To get my self-esteem higher because somebody else doesn't live up to my standards or to my talents. The land of comparisons is a lifeless place. Too much of how we think about ourselves comes from our comparisons of ourselves with others. Sometimes we beat ourselves up because we think we don't measure up. I'm not as pretty as she. I don't get as good as grades as he does. My job, my house, my life are not as good as that other person's. Or, as this gospel more readily points out, our temptation is often to feel better about ourselves by those same comparisons, to think we are superior. Thank goodness I'm not like that, like those people from Boston. Only kidding. The Pharisee was very proud of himself for his religious observance And he compared himself to someone he named as different. And we all get like that sometimes, don't we? Don't we all find ourselves stuck in that vicious cycle, pattern of thinking? It might be our religious behaviors. It might be our nationality, our ethnicity. It might be our politics. It might be our particular morals. We're not like them. We are better than they. But living in comparison is ultimately going to mess with our minds and our souls. It's truly toxic, and it is actually a deep loneliness. In the land of comparison, we get this false sense of connection with the few we think are right and good, just like us. But we thereby cut ourselves off from our great bond with all God's people. When I think I'm better than you, I miss that deep connection that is indeed ours, the common humanity that makes the struggles of this lonely world worth living. One of the gifts science has given us is this new consciousness that we're all connected. But in the land of comparison, that connection is severed. It's a break with creation. Instead of comparing ourselves all the time, it is way more important that we root ourselves in who God would say we are. Foundationally, we are each loved with an infinite love. Foundationally, we are the beloved of God, and we are sinners. And we are deeply rooted and bonded in that common experience of humanity. The divisions we create in our minds to separate us are just smoke and mirrors. And it is wasted suffering. As I said in the beginning, you are unique in every way. No one looks quite like you. And certainly no one thinks and processes things like you do. Your history, your struggles, your joys are unrepeatable. No one is wounded quite like you are, gifted quite like you, laughs quite like you laugh. And deep down, you and I are all God's. And there we are much more alike than we are different. It will go well for us, well indeed, if we start to focus on what we have in common with all women and men, rather than some particular trait that makes me better or worse, superior or inferior than another human being.